FUNCLE's Customs, where I find all kinds of cars in different places. I usually fix them and flip them, but sometimes I keep them. This is My Garage Revivals. Today we had our next customer vehicle delivered to our shop. Hello everybody and welcome back to My Garage Revivals. So today we are just admiring the view this morning because this is pretty much going to be what we see from now on when we wake up in the morning. So yes, the guys have been a little bit busy with a little bit more construction work here. As you can see, we've got pretty much all the walls up, and also they have made the cutouts for the windows and for the doors obviously. So yeah, this is going to be a very nice little cabin for us on top of the roof over here. So this is going to probably be the bathroom, and then this is just going to be a single room where we are going to put our bed, a fridge, and we'll probably also move the microwave over here and maybe put it somewhere on a shelf or something. So yeah, that is definitely coming along very nicely. So yeah, let's get back into the shop because we've got quite a couple of things that we need to do today. So first of all, we've got a customer. His name is Runus, and this is his BMW E36. So this vehicle was actually in a little bit of a, not really an accident, but he had an accident. So he actually said the brakes failed, and the vehicle actually plowed into the water, which caused the engine to lock up, and obviously now the engine is completely destroyed. So we are going to be changing the engine for him. So he did send over a replacement engine, which is a inline 6, as you can see. And obviously we've got a bunch of other things we are also going to be replacing for him. So most of these parts that's going into the car are pretty much parts that we had laying around the shop, like this transmission. So this is actually from our Chevelle. So that'll work nicely with this inline 6, because obviously the gearbox he's got in the car is for an inline 4. So we're going to have to swap that out as well. And then we've got the battery that came with the Chevelle, which is still in a decent condition. This one is actually in very poor condition. So we're going to be swapping that out as well for him, as well as install a white dashboard because he doesn't have a color matching dashboard in the car. And then last but not least, we're going to be swapping this wheel, which we have. It's the exact same one on the car actually over here, which has got a ball tire. So we are going to be pretty much just installing one of our wheels for him, and then that one we will send with him for a spare tire, which is going to be better than nothing. So yes, that is pretty much the work we need to do to this car. So obviously we are going to have to do some servicing to this engine at a later stage, but I think for the time being we are just going to try and get the vehicle running again. And then we'll also give it a little bit of a wash because it's a little bit dusty, as you can see. So there's definitely a little bit of rust here and there as well. But we'll sort that out for him as well. Alright, so yeah, moving along, we've got our wheels for our Chevelle that I picked up this morning very early from the shop. So these are pretty much the wheels we took off the car, and they have been wrapped with brand new tires. And we also have got some wheel spacers because I figured we're going to need some wheel spacers for our Chevelle. So yeah, then we are going to be stripping this engine to see if we can get this engine up and running for the Chevelle as well. And then if you look on the table over here, we also did manage to get the radiator support. So I just went ahead and mounted the radiator, and also got a new upper hose for this radiator because the upper hose was quite worn. But the lower hose was actually still in very good condition, so I just decided to replace the top hose. Alright, so that is pretty much what is happening with our Chevelle. As you can see, we've also got our grille and our bumper still to mount, so we needed to have this part installed for that to go on. So we'll probably get to this today as well. So let's quickly have a glance at our Chevelle over here. So as you can see, I've been a little bit busy with this. So I have actually bought a couple of cans of primer and just sort of started priming the vehicle. I also managed to get rid of a little bit more rust here and there. So there's obviously still a lot of bodywork to be done to this vehicle before it's going to be perfect. But I think we at least got most of the work done. So if we can get our engine stripped and maybe in the next episode assembled, then this car should be actually ready to go to paint. So speaking of paint, we do have got our little Niva 4x4 over at Richard's Auto Body. So they are pretty much busy giving it a little bit of a spray paint for us. So we will be getting that vehicle back once it's done. Alright, so yes, we are pretty much ready to tackle this job first of all. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and grab the toolbox. And we are going to see if we can get that old inline 4 removed, the blown engine, and then pretty much get the gearbox removed and all that. And then we're going to see if this thing is going to be able to fire up today. So we do have some oil and some coolant. So yeah, let's get pretty much into this. So I'm going to start by just removing all of these bolts on the transmission and also the fuel line. So let's put the fuel line down there. So that is still very good. Alright, so over here we've got 4 bolts on the transmission once again. Alright, let me just get these. Alright, some of these bolts are actually loose. Alright, and then we are gonna pretty much have the transmission drop out. So that tells me that the drive shaft bolts weren't tightened down. So yeah, that's a little bit of a mission if your transmission is not tightened down. Alright, and then we are going to go around the other side. Let's maybe just drop the engine or the muffler first of all before we take the engine out. So we'll pull the muffler out. Let's just put it over here for now. Alright, there we go. So the muffler is out of the way. Alright, let's just get this off the paintwork. Alright, so now I think we are ready to yank this little engine out. Alright, I think we may have missed a bolt on the starter down there. Let me just undo that as well. And there we go. Alright, so there's the old blown engine. So yes, obviously, because we are supplying a lot of our parts, we are going to be keeping this maybe for a little bit of a project we are going to be doing in the future. We'll see if we can get that thing running again one day. Maybe if we replace the engine block. So yeah, that is something we've got now in the shop. Alright, so I think next up we are going to remove the battery over here. So let's undo the terminals over here and just lift it out. Alright, so that is quite worn. Okay, so let's put that down over there out of the way. And then we're going to grab the engine and just see if we can get this in like that, and let's bolt it down. Alright, and then we've got our ground cable over there, and let's tighten up the alternator bolt. So obviously this car needs a new alternator as well, and I think the water pump isn't looking too good either, so we'll probably have to sort that out. Alright, let's grab the new battery now, or the replacement battery. Get that dropped in over here. Alright, and let's tighten up this and that. Perfect. Alright, so now I think we are ready to try and install our fuel line, and then we'll get this thing up on the lift for the transmission, because I want to make sure we get those transmission bolts bolted down, as well as the drive shaft bolts. Alright, so this is going over there. Alright, let's zip that down. Right, now what I can do is pretty much just put the wrench down. Let's get this handbrake loosened up. Alright, and let's push the car back a little bit. There we go. I think that should do. Let's go forward a little bit. Alright, maybe a little bit more. Alright, that'll do. Alright, let's get the lift arms under the car. Just like that. I'll get that pushed back in a bit, and then we'll get this one under the car as well. Alright, let's see if it's gonna be safe for us to lift this thing up. Alright, that looks pretty good. Not too bad. Alright, so let's move on. We've got our transmission we need to install now. Alright, so let's come over here. We've got pretty much all these bolts we need to bolt down. And it looks like he's actually missing a transmission mount, which is something we're going to have to probably order for this car, because that is something you need. Alright, so I think while we've got this car up in the air, we can grab the exhaust system, which also came with the car. Alright, and we're going to pretty much see if we can get this thing mounted now. Alright, let's bolt it down. Alright, so everything is looking pretty good. So there we go. Alright, and those are very interesting muffler tips. Alright, so I think while we've got the car up in the air, we're just going to quickly swap out the wheel. So we'll just lower it down a little bit. Alright, so let's go and unbolt the wheel. Just like that. And let's get this one fitted. Alright, and we're going to bolt that down. Alright, so that is pretty much the new tire fitted onto the car. So we've got pretty much all 4 tires are good on this vehicle now. So we are going to be stripping the wheels off again anyway, because we are going to be doing the brakes. But I think I just want to see if there are any problems with the brakes first of all. So I'm going to be testing that first. So yeah, I think the next thing we need to do is pretty much see if we can get some oil and coolant in this car. So I'm going to lower it down again. And then we are going to pretty much top up the fluids and just see if it fires up. Right, so that is our oil level pretty much perfect. And now we are just going to see if we need to top up the radiator a little bit. So let's see, we've still got some coolant in there. So let me just top it off quickly, and then we're going to see if this thing wants to fire up. Alright, so that is the coolant sorted as well. So now what I would like to do is push this car back. Just see if we can get this thing fired up now. Alright, let's see what she does. Alright, it doesn't seem like this thing wants to fire up, so we're gonna have to do a little bit of troubleshooting with this then. That'll probably be because we don't have some spark plugs working, or either we've got a bad crankshaft, something on this engine. So that is something we're going to have to investigate a little bit. So yeah, that is quite a bummer. So the guy was actually hoping the engine was going to run straight off the bat, but obviously there is something wrong. So we are going to have to probably yank this engine out again and see what is wrong. But I think what I can do is pretty much try the obvious things like replace the spark plugs. And we are also going to just see if everything else is looking pretty good under the valve cover. Maybe there's some rockers that are bad. I think if we lift the cap here, yeah, there's a little bit of rust in there. So I think maybe that is also part of the problem. So there might be, yeah, some internal damage as well in the engine, but I'm not sure. So I guess we will probably have to strip it out. But I think for now, we are going to pretty much mount the dashboard that he has requested us to put in the car. So let's come over here and remove the dashboard. Alright, so there goes the black dashboard. So we'll probably pop out this cluster for him. Just transfer it over to the new dashboard. Right, so let's put this one in. Alright, let's get that zipped down. And we'll go around the other side over here. Alright, now we just need to get this cluster removed from here. Alright, so here's the cluster. Let's just pop this into here. And there we go. Alright, so that is a white dashboard installed. So this one, we'll probably just send it back with the car once he comes and picks it up. Alright, so what I've done now is I've removed the plug leads. So I'm going to quickly pull out the spark plugs on this engine because I'm a little bit curious to see if this might just be the issue. If it's something simple like this, then yeah, maybe we can get this thing running with parts we have on our shelf. Right, so first of all, this one still looks fairly good, so that doesn't have a problem. Let's check the second one. That is still good as well. And the third one is also still looking quite good. Alright, that one still seems decent. And that one still seems decent, so it doesn't look like it's the spark plugs. Alright, so yeah, all the spark plugs are good, so that is quite interesting why this thing doesn't want to fire up. Because the fuel pump looks good. So I think maybe it's this ignition coil. So let's quickly have a look at that. So we'll grab our plug leads and just pop them back on. And let's quickly take off that ignition coil, which is looking a little bit tired over here. Alright, I'm pretty confident that this is the culprit. So we should probably try and see if we can just get another ignition coil. Now I do notice that we do have got the same one on the 350 over here. So let's see if we can get this removed. First of all, we can always replace this one again. But it'll be interesting to see if this is going to make the vehicle fire up. Alright, so let's try this. I believe it should fit. Alright, let's just get it in over there. Alright, and bolt it down. Alright, I'm quite confident that this thing is going to fire up now, because this ignition coil is definitely bad. Alright, so let's try that again. Alright, so still no luck. So the ignition coil wasn't the only problem on this engine. So let's dig in a little bit deeper. Just as far as we can go with the engine installed into the car. I think let's get this valve cover off. Alright, so we've got some bad rockers, but sadly we don't have any rockers to replace these with just yet. So we're probably gonna have to order the rockers. So let's just take these over to the table and see. Well, they are definitely worn and a little bit rusty, but I think these should actually still work. That doesn't look that bad. Alright, so what else can we check on this thing? We've got a starter on the opposite side. That still looks decent. Just bolt it down. So maybe I forgot to bolt the starter down. Alright, we'll get our valve cover back on. Alright, let's see if the starter wire is going to make a difference in this car. It doesn't seem like that is the issue, so I'm thinking there's an internal problem with the engine, probably compression. So we are going to have to at least rip the head off to inspect that, but I think that is going to be everything I'm going to do to this car for this episode. So I will maybe rip the engine out off camera, and then we'll get it up on a stand after we have cleared this with our 350 over here. So obviously this is the engine we need to put in our Chevelle, and this can wait a little bit, so we've got pretty much a basic idea of what could be the problem. Alright, so yes, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push this car back to the lift and get it a little bit out of the way. But I do want to start working on the Chevelle again. Alright, so yes, that was a little bit yeah, mind-boggling, but I think we will figure it out. Alright, so what I would like to do now is continue some work on our Chevelle over here, which has got pretty much all the parts installed. We just need to get our radiator support welded into place. And then we are going to get the bumpers and, well, not the bumpers, the bumper and the grille mounted. And I think that is going to pretty much make this car look like a car again. Alright, so let me bring the radiator support a little bit closer. Alright, I think we should be able to get this mounted just like that. And let's grab our welding machine. Let's weld that into place. Alright, so that is pretty much all the welding work done for now. So let's put our welding machine up on the shelf there. And then I'm going to go grab my toolbox. And we're going to bring the bumper and the grille over. And see if we can get it fitted. Alright, so here we go. We've got our bumper and our grille over here. So I think the first thing we can do is probably mount the bumper. So this should have got some bolts over here somewhere. I think it's probably those. Alright, so that is the bumper secure. Alright, so this grille probably has got 2 screws on either side. So we just need to get access to them like that. And let's zip it down. Alright, and there we go. I think that is pretty much our Chevy Chevelle, more or less looking like a Chevy Chevelle again. So now what I would like to do is see if we can get the wheels and tires mounted and also get the tires aired up. So yeah, let me quickly grab all the spacers, the floor jack and everything and get that pretty much into place. Alright, so we've got all our wheels and tires here, and I think it's pretty much just a matter of jacking the car up quickly, getting all the wheels and spacers mounted, and then we can put some air into these tires. And then after that, we are going to be tackling that engine. So obviously, we are going to need a lot of parts on that engine, but I'm going to take the whole thing apart and just make sure everything else is in good condition, and we're going to be replacing parts even if they are quite a bit worn and still working, because obviously we want to try and make this thing as reliable as possible. Alright, so there we go. I think these wheels actually look very decent on the car. I don't think we need to buy new wheels and tires for this. This is going to pretty much just do. So obviously we are still a little bit money conscious, because we need to try and make some more money by selling this vehicle, and I think spending as little money as possible would probably just raise the profit a little bit better once we try and sell this car on. Alright, so let's grab our wrench again over here. Let's get these 2 wheels fitted as well. Alright, wheel spacer, and let's get this wheel on. Make sure you bolt down all the nuts. Alright, and then over this side, the last one. Alright, just like that. And there we go. Alright, what I'm going to do now is pretty much just lower the car down, air up the 4 tires. And then we are going to pretty much see what this thing looks like. Although it's been painted in primer, we should get a little bit of an idea of the final product here. Alright, so here we go. So yeah, we've got a very decent looking 1969 Chevy Chevelle over here now. And I think the only thing that we really need to still work on is pretty much the engine. And then we're going to be ordering a brand new transmission for this as well. So yeah, that is definitely coming along very nicely. And I think this is going to be a very nice car once it's done. Alright, so now we are going to grab our toolbox over here and we are going to start working on this engine, which definitely needs a little bit of attention because this is pretty much the engine that came out of our shop truck, and it is yeah, for some reason it just stopped working one day, and I haven't really ever investigated what was wrong with it. So I think we are just going to pretty much rip everything off, get to the internals of the engine and see what is cooking with that. Alright, so we're going to start over here with the headers. We are going to be inspecting each and every part and seeing how much they are worn, and also figure out why the engine has stopped working. So exhaust manifolds wouldn't have caused that. That would have just caused a leaking exhaust, which we also had on this vehicle. But we sorted that out by means of replacing the engine with another engine and also some other headers and stuff like that. So this should be fine if we can get this whole engine working. I think maybe even the cylinder heads was leaking. Alright, so those aren't looking too bad. Alright, so basically the manifolds are still good. These exhaust pipe extensions are quite worn a bit, but they should also still be working. And I think this distributor over here, it's still looking fairly decent. I don't think this was the problem either. So we could probably open this and just double check everything inside, but I think that shouldn't be the problem. Alright, so let's just see if we can get this thing opened up. There's such a tiny little screw over there. Alright, so it's not the distributor cap. The rotor still looks pretty decent, and let's just check the points. So we are pretty much taking the points out. This is a very tiny thing to work on. Maybe let's grab this again. See if we can get this screw loosened. Alright, let me just check up on this. Points. These points are still fairly fresh, so I don't think that was the issue. Alright, so let's get that zip down again. Let's get our rotor back in and put the cap back on and just get this thing bolted down again. Alright, so we do know we've got a good distributor, which doesn't look too bad. We've got a lot of parts still that could be the contributor to why this engine stopped running. So I'm sure the spark plugs wasn't the issue, because those were pretty much brand new. The air cleaner has been replaced fairly recently, so that couldn't be an issue either. Alright, so let's get this removed. This valve cover is looking quite bad, so might have to order a whole set of these. We'll probably also have to get some new cylinder heads, because you can obviously tell these are very rusty. Alright, so here we go. We've got pretty much two valve covers. Very bad condition. They are very worn. Alright, so let's get these rockers removed. Alright, there they go. We've got some rockers that are... yeah, they should actually still work, but I think these are actually worth replacing, because I don't think it's very expensive to just replace the rockers. But the cylinder heads, on the other hand, that might actually be the more expensive thing over here. Alright, so let's get this removed as well. Alright, so that is pretty much the same condition as the opposite side. So yeah, that makes kind of sense that they should worn out at the same time. Alright, so all these bolts. Alright, so then we've got the ones on the intake as well. Let's get these removed. Alright, there's another one. Alright, this engine has got a lot more bolts than the other engines that we used to work on. Alright, let's grab this. that is definitely not working anymore. I think maybe the cylinder heads was the culprits in with regards to this engine stopping from working. And also the head gaskets blew, so could have been that we had an overheating issue that we never really knew about. Alright, and also on the inside you can see the pistons are quite bad. Alright, but let's start here at the front for now. Just take this fan off quick. Alright, and then we can probably tilt the engine the other way. Alright, so let's get this cylinder head removed as well. Alright, so here's our second cylinder head. Alright, that looks just as bad as the other one. So once again, these parts definitely wore out at the same time. And so did the head gasket, which is looking quite bad. So yeah, so far we've got to replace a set of valve covers. The cooling fan also doesn't look that good yet, so we'll probably have to replace that as well. So we're going to get some head gaskets and cylinder heads. So yeah, I think we've still got a couple more things to investigate over here. So let's get our alternator removed as well. Alright, so that actually came with the belt. Alright, so the alternator seems decent. That's not too bad. We can probably reuse that. Alright, and I think what I'm going to do is let's put the parts we're going to replace on the one table. So obviously we don't need to replace this. We are going to replace the rockers. Alright, so we're going to pretty much make ourselves a little bit of a shopping list on this table. Alright, so we've got the 2 rockers. We've got the 2 valve covers we need to source. Alright, and the cooling fan, or the radiator fan if you want to call it that. Alright, so these are fairly decent still. I think we can reuse those. I think, yeah, that's not the problem. And also those are easy to reach if you need to replace them. So it kind of just makes sense to reuse the parts we can easily access. Alright, so down here we've got pretty much a lot of bolts for the oil pan. Alright, so there's our oil pan. It actually doesn't look too bad, but I think it might be something we'll replace rather, because the last thing we want is for our oil pan to start leaking. Alright, so now we can probably tackle this flywheel and the clutch and everything. Remove this. Alright, we should be able to get to these bolts one way or another. Alright, there's one. Let's just see around this side. Okay, so there goes our pressure plate. How is this doing? Yeah, that's still fine. There's the clutch plate. That's also still fine. Doesn't look too bad. Alright, let's get our flywheel removed over here. Okay, so there's our flywheel too. It's not too bad. And then let's see if we can quickly take this off by hand. Our oil filter. How's this doing? Yeah, I think that we're going to replace. Alright, so just by looking at this crankshaft and the pistons, I think we can clearly see that we need to replace all the pistons and the crankshaft in this engine. So that is definitely also a contributor towards the whole engine not working anymore. So I think once we can get this water pump assembly off, I don't know if this will come off with the water pump though. Let's see. Alright, got a lot of bolts around this. I may have missed some bolts, but I think it's probably not going to come off with the water pump installed. So let's just see. Alright, well, it does, but the water pump didn't come with it. So this is obviously a timing cover we're going to replace as well. Might as well just replace it. Alright, let's see how this water pump is mounted. So there's 2 bolts on this side. That is very interesting. Oh, you know why? Because the I think the alternator mounts to the other side. So that is where those bolts are. Alright, this water pump definitely packed up. So we're going to have to replace that too. Alright, and then I think let's rip this timing chain off quickly. Alright, that is still fair. But although that is still in usable condition, I think it's just better to replace it because that's an internal engine part. So it's better to just get some new timing chains or belts installed once you have stripped the engine that far. As well as the sprocket is still decent, but I'm going to replace that as well. Right, I think now we're going to need our pry tool for the crankshaft pulley over here. Let's just get that out. Alright, let's see. Yeah, once again, I'm going to replace that. Alright, let's see if we can get our camshaft out. Alright, so this definitely broke. That is definitely a problem as well in this engine. Alright, so we're going to swap that out for sure. Alright, now we should probably grab our wrench again because there's a lot of parts to unbolt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip this crankshaft out with all the pistons attached to it, because this is going to go straight in the bin once I have got the correct parts ordered, because I don't think we are going to be salvaging anything from this. So there we go, we've got our pistons and crankshaft just like that. It needs to be replaced. So yeah, I'm not even gonna bother taking the pistons off from that. Alright, let's see what else we've got. We've got a fuel pump over here. I'm gonna replace the fuel pump. That is also a problem. Right, let's see what this carburetor looks like, because I know the air cleaner is fairly new, so we're not going to bother with the air cleaner, but I think the carburetor itself doesn't look too bad. So we'll definitely be able to reuse that. Alright, so carrying on, we've got a starter over here, which looks pretty good still. I don't know what the actual condition is of it, so let's maybe just take it off. We're going to see. Alright, so here's the starter. No, I think the starter is still fine. We're not going to bother with that. And also that's a part that we can easily reach, or the new owner of the vehicle can also easily reach it if he needs to replace that. Alright, so here's our thermostat housing, which we are going to replace. Alright, so I think the last part on this engine is still just the intake manifold over here. Alright, so that is also quite worn. Alright, so obviously we've got all our parts we need to replace on the table over here as well as on the barrel. But I think this engine is pretty much stripped now, so I'm going to have a very good idea of what I need to replace on this. And obviously we are going to check this engine block as well for damage. We might actually get this thing sent to an engineering shop so that they can just check it for us and do some measurements on the actual sleeves, because obviously the pistons got worn, so maybe the sleeves are worn as well on this. So it might actually be worth it just sending this thing in while it's stripped, just so that they can go through it for us and make sure everything's fine. So yeah, that is pretty much our engine taken apart, and we know what parts are good and we know what parts we definitely need to replace. But also on that note, I think it's going to be a wrap for this episode. So thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate every view, every like. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. I will appreciate it very much. But yeah, until the next time, cheerio.